What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for another predicted lineup video as we face Wolves this weekend at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's time to right those wrongs of past experiences at Wolves and in 17. We've got back in the studio. How you doing, Danny?
I'm good, man. I'm looking forward to the predicted lineup.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot to get through today. But let's start off with the injury news. Conte has done his press conference. And what is the injury news, Danny?
So, yeah, the players we've still got out, unfortunately, with Christian Romero picked up that injury. Initially, it did look like it was going to be a 3 to 4 week injury, but thank God, we've actually had some luck for once, and it's only going to be 10 days or so. So
yeah, don't say that until he's actually back on the pitch, because we've been stung by that before. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look what happened to Oliver Skip last season. And yeah, the second player who's injured is Oliver Skip. So other than that, I know they're two important players, but I think we've got enough to deal with what's going to be thrown at us the next few weeks. But yeah, luckily it's not any major injuries really from both of those players either. Yeah,
absolutely. It's important to note as well that Antonio Conte said in his press conference that Clement Longley is back in the frame and available for selection as well. So that's definitely a plus in terms of the defensive numbers. In terms of the lineup, we're going to go for a 3-4-3 formation as always. It's a shame. It's a shame that Cuti Romero and Skip are out injured, but let's start off from the back and let's start off in goal, because in goal, who else to pick but obviously Hugo Lloris. Yeah, so I mean, how important is Hugo going to be this weekend, do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't really had much to do, to be honest, in the first couple of games.
Even in the Chelsea game,
yeah, he hardly had anything to do because we actually had more shots on target than they did, and they had a lot more shots. So I think it's a no-brainer. I think he could this game. I think he'll be tested more this game. I think he will. Because they've got, just like we were talking earlier, they've got these tricky players, and if we've got players like Sanchez who can be pressured quite easily, and you could say to an extent Dyer even, I think they're going to want to get at us. So I think he will have a lot more to do, but I think I think this week will be more important. For sure.
All right, so Hugo in goal. Let's talk about the right wing-back situation now. Doherty seemingly back fit. Lucas can potentially play there as well, but we are going to stick with Emerson Royale. I, for one, think he's been one of our better players this season.
Yeah, I think he has been. He's starting to show. I mean, look, I'm not going to get him ahead of myself with Emerson.
Come on, get ahead of yourself.
I can't. Ben. You know me. You know what I'm like. Until I start seeing Emerson really kind of perform in an attacking sense, it's going to be hard for me to change my opinion. But I will give him the benefit of doubt.
You saw it in the first game this season.
Yeah, he did all right. His crossing's still poor, right? But do you know what I see with Emerson is when he's passing along the ground, his passing is actually not bad. It's actually pretty decent because he's got the technical ability to pass. But it's just when he's putting the cross into the box, it's like he doesn't know when to cross, like whether to cross early or to go to the byline and cross it back. Because even the assist he got, it was passed along the floor to Kulu, and Kulu did all the work really. So it's good that he's maybe starting to show more in this position, and I think what you'll see more of is him getting into the back post, and then it's a matter of whether he's got the ability to put it in the back of the net. So far, I haven't seen it yet. Again, I know he's only what 5 or 6 games since he started really kind of showing a little bit more, but I think he's got to be the first choice at the moment because obviously Dyer's still coming back. He might be fit, but Emerson he really trusts Emerson because of his work rate and his kind of desire. I think you saw that. Did you see that picture of Conte when he was screaming at Emerson like come on, kind of after when he came off against Southampton? He obviously has got a good connection with Emerson and he obviously trusts him. So and I think is what you see in Emerson's game is the desire and the work rate. He doesn't stop running, which is what you want. And
defensive capabilities as well.
I think he's probably our best defender in the air, aerially. Defending from set pieces, he is by far our best defender. So he obviously offers something that other players don't offer. I can't see anyone else being picked ahead of him.
In terms of the crossing, I completely get your point that he has been poor for us, getting the balls into the box. But I think that since he has come onto form, slowly, I can see him getting better. And that's all you can ask for right now with Emerson and for our players in general. Just get better week on week. And I think Emerson's doing that.
I hope so. I mean, you've probably seen it a bit more than I have. Maybe I've got Emerson vision on at the moment, but I know what you mean. I have seen, you can see he's slightly getting more confident, I think is the key. It's the confidence, because I think if he has that part of his game to really believe in himself more, I think you'll see him do a bit better offensively this season than we did last season. And again, last season was the first time he's played as a right wing back, because in his other systems he's played as a right back. So it's interesting, and he's got all the physical attributes to be a top player. It's whether or not he can. I think, honestly, my opinion, if he could sort out his crossing, he'd be one of the best right wing backs in the league. And
Do you think he has it in him?
I don't know. It's hard to say. He's still young, and I just the way I mean, how old is Emerson now? He's like what,
23 something.
Yeah, he's quite young, isn't he? So you have to. I look at it as. Do you remember when Kyle Walker, when he was coming into it, right? His crossing was awful as well. That people need to remember, his crossing was poor. It was only really when Poch really got a hold of him and started training him, his crossing started getting better and better.
And still, with Kyle Walker, his floating crosses were still never good. His crossing was those low drill ones across the wheels, you know what I mean?
But that's what I think Emerson will be good at. I think those low drill type of crosses, I think he could be good at. I'm just not sure if he could do like a Perisic type cross where he'll float it, or he'll just like a whip cross, like a quick whip cross. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how he's going to kind of go on this season.
Well, I guess time will tell. Time will tell. But let's move on from the right back. Let's talk about the right centre back now. Cuti Romero out injured. It's a toss-up between Tanganga and Sanchez, and we're favouring Sanchez for this one. And this is the key position where probably Spurs fans are coming into this game with a bit of anxiety, and you know, probably rightly so as well. But I think that when you bring in Sanchez for the odd game here and there, I think he usually stands up well to the challenge.
Yeah, I think so. I think when he's, like we discussed earlier, when he's given an extended run in the team, he starts to show his flaws in his game.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the biggest thing for me is his concentration over 90 minutes. Because if Conte said it himself, if he concentrates for 90 minutes, he could be one of the best defenders. And maybe not technically in terms of his passing out from the back, but in terms of his defending and in terms of his physical attributes, he could do a really good job for us. I think he'll get the nod, and I think he'll do his job. I just don't know. I've got a thing, Ben. I actually believe Sanchez is going to leave at the end of the season.
Really?
Yeah. Do you know why? Because I think that he's not going to be happy going through a season where he's not going to play as many games. And I think he'll get game time, but it won't be like maybe what he wants. And I think he might start thinking then, after like 2 or 3 years of doing this at Tottenham, I maybe need to start playing week in, week out sort of thing. And that's where I think they might look at it again in the summer. But this season, he's going to be an important rotational player, I think, because Conte does trust him. And I think people do forget that. I mean, we both have our opinions on Sanchez. I'm maybe not as strong as David Harris, for example. I do get what he says, because let's be honest, right? If we're honest, we need better. Yeah,
completely agree.
For now, we have to deal with what we have, and I think he'll do a job.
Yeah, and it's not just his concentration that's an issue. It's him on the ball as well.
Yeah.
And we all know in a Conte system, it's so important to be good on the ball. And I think that's actually his biggest failing for us. And I think if he was good on the ball, it would mask a lot more of maybe these concentration lapses and stuff like that, because we would be so much better in progressing the ball up the field and stuff like that. So, look, that's always been a situation with Sanchez where he hasn't been good enough on the ball, and he definitely needs to improve that if he wants to stay at this football club.
Yeah, I agree.
But having said that, I think, like I said on the preview, I don't know too many defenders as a backup defender that are better than him outside of Man City and Liverpool. I really don't. So that's my 2 cents on Sanchez. But having said that as well, I'm not the biggest fan of Davinson, so let's move on swiftly on from Davinson Sanchez, and let's go to the centre of the centre-backs, and obviously it's going to be Eric Dyer. And what do you want to see more from Eric Dyer?
I know Jory was touching on it earlier on about his leadership skills. Now, for me, I don't see that enough. I don't see him commanding his backline enough. And that's what I want to see from him. If you're going to be... He might be vocal where he shouts and screams at players and things at times, but I want to see him... If he's going to be that mainstay in that centre-back pairing, or that partnership in the three, he has to demand more and command more. So he has to be telling his players when and where they're going to be. His communication. He needs to communicate more, because if he doesn't... We see what happens when he doesn't. I know we went to a back four against Chelsea, but he was so drawn over because he was so used to playing in a back three that he just left the whole defence open for Davis to just defend for himself, sort of thing. And it was 2 against 1. It was, you saw as soon as James got that, he was going to put it in the back of the net. You could just see it. So that for me is the biggest thing. And also, do you know what, with Dyer, he's quite a tall guy, right? He needs to do more in the air. He needs to do more in aerially, because from what I see, we are quite poor defending set pieces, and he's a big problem of that as a team of our defensive abilities when we are defending set pieces. You just see him. That Chelsea goal against where Koulibaly scored, and I've seen it many times. If you look at the replay, right, he looks around once before the corner's taken, and after that, he did not once look around his surroundings to see what was around him, but just focus on the ball, like a lot of the players were. So it wasn't just him, but if you're that leader, you need to make sure you know where everyone is marking someone. Man mark at a corner. I think that's the best way to do it, because they left 2 Chelsea players exposed, and Koulibaly, there was no one around him. And again, the closest player to him was Emerson and Son, but they didn't do anything either. So it wasn't just his fault for that. But I'm saying I've seen it with Eric Dyer. He needs to be better in the air and command that line better for me.
Yeah, I think on the leadership thing, I think that's actually one of his biggest strengths, Eric Dyer, and I'm very pleased with him in that aspect. And I actually disagree in a sense that I always do think he's leading the line pretty well, and always communicating with his other centre-backs and his midfielders and the goalkeeper as well. I think that's actually one of the strong parts of his game. But I think where he falls short sometime again is probably similar to Sanchez in terms of concentration. I think positional sense and concentration, sometimes he can fall short a little bit. But I think Eric Dyer has been good since Conte has come in, but it's clear that he needs competition for his place, because he can't play every game. No. And who else are we going to play in the centre role that can actually command the back line? There's no one that we've got that can do that. Clement Longley can come in and play centre, but predominantly he'd probably be preferring to play on the left-hand side. Yeah. So I think that we need to bring in someone that has leadership qualities and that can rival Eric Dyer for that centre-back role. And like I said on the preview, I think Joachim Andersen would be a perfect fit for that, because it looks like he's got leadership abilities. He looks like in the air he's aerially dominant, really is aerially dominant against anyone, and he can pick a pass as well. I mean, his passing ability is unbelievable.
I think we missed the boat there on him last season. I don't know why they didn't go and get him in, because they should have, because we were linked with him for this early on in the window, and then
he was at Fulham,
and we didn't go and get him, and then Crystal Palace went and bought him, and they didn't get him for a big fee either. It was less than £30 million. I think he would have been perfect right now. If you go and buy someone like him now, Palace are going to demand anything minimum
around 50 million,
40 million minimum, you'd say. So look, we've got the money to do it. I'd rather, if you're going to spend the money, go and get him or a Skriniar. They've got the money, so that's what I would do. I think them 2 players, for me, are the best picks of who you can go and get right now. And you might say Skriniar's unrealistic, but really, is he unrealistic? If Spurs have got the money to do it, they could just go and put the money down and go and get him. But I don't think they will, and I think Joachim Andersen is more realistic, and he's Premier League proven. So if you want to pay a bit less money for someone like that, he's the one I'd go and get. He's brilliant.
All right, well, let's talk about the left-sided defence now. Obviously, we put Romero and Dyer in the centre. On the left-hand side, Longley is back in contention, but we are going to stick with Ben Davies for this one, aren't we?
Yeah. I don't think there's too much else we can add with Ben Davies. He's a Mr. Reliable, isn't he? So I don't think...
Apart from if he's in a back four.
Yeah, apart from if he's in a back four. I don't want to see him in a Spurs shirt. But, Longley's not ready to come on and play. I'd be shocked if Longley starts ahead of him.
Yeah, we'll see. I think we will see Longley come on for a few minutes, maybe 20 minutes at the end or something like that.
So. Yeah, I think so.
But I think Ben Davies as well, he's going to be really important, especially with Romero out and the way Davinson Sanchez is on the ball.
Yeah.
This actually, extends the need for Davis to go and bomb forward and produce that other outlet as a centre-back going forward, because we know in a Conte system he always likes one of his centre-backs to go and create that extra option, and in this game that's going to be on Ben Davis with Davinson Sanchez there.
So do you think then there is a chance then Longley might get the nod ahead, because Longley is a better player progressing the ball up the pitch, and if you haven't got Romero, I know we haven't really seen him start yet, but we can all agree Longley is a far more technically gifted player than Ben Davies is. You could even argue he's more aggressive than Ben Davies. Do you think he might be suited more for this game? Do you think Conte might see it as like, okay, he's fit, maybe I will give him a chance, because maybe he's looking at that, maybe the next couple of games where he's going to have to rotate them, because next week we've got 3 games in a week. A week after next, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I would say you definitely have a point if it was like further on into the season, but because Longley has just come, and you know how Conte, he doesn't like to play players unless they really know what they're doing in the Conte system. Yeah. So I think it's a bit too early for that. So that's why for this game I would start Davis, but I could definitely see your point moving into the season, that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, that's the centre backs. Let's move on to the left wing back. Toss up between Perisic and Sessegnon. We are going to stick with Sessegnon in this case, but I think Perisic's start is just around the corner, but I think this one might come a bit too soon for him again.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we were saying this earlier. I think every single Spurs fan out there, they will say if Perisic is fit, the man has to start. He's a top player. He was the best wing back in Serie A last season, and you can see
who was the second best?
Yeah, Udogie, yeah, exactly. So we've got both of them now. But you can see the class when he came on against Chelsea. You can see just even the few minutes he comes on in the last game against Southampton. He was phenomenal. He's brilliant. He runs at his players. He's crossing good on both feet.
It's mad. He took one corner with the right, one corner with the left, and they were both pinpoint.
Yeah, they were brilliant. He's a phenomenal player. He's phenomenal. But having said that, I just still think, I know Conte was saying it after the last game, he's still not 100% fit. And for me, I don't want to risk it, because I think he is going to be one of our key players this season. And I think with Perisic, you don't want to bring him on now and then he risks injuring himself, or he pulls a muscle or something like that, because it's gonna really affect his kind of development in the Spurs. It's getting into the Spurs team, and I think it'll be a big setback, and I think we can't afford that, and I don't want to afford that. So for me, Sessegnon, I think you bring him on again as a substitute so he can impact the game like he has been doing. Yeah,
I think that's a completely fair point. And Sessegnon has been a mixed bag so far this season. First game, I thought he was really good. Second game against Chelsea was fairly poor. So we want to see him get back to that Southampton performance, because he was one of the best players on the pitch that day, wasn't he?
He was. I think this is a game where he could do it as well. I think he really could. Sessegnon has a bit of a mixed time when he plays. I know someone was saying to me when he plays, I think Marlon was saying it actually last week, when he plays against the big teams, he seems to not do well. But I disagree with that, because
he did well against Liverpool.
He did well against Liverpool and Man City as well. He did really well. And he did well against Arsenal as well. So I don't agree with that narrative. I just think it's just a confidence thing with Sessegnon. I think it depends on the day. He's got to believe in himself. If he believes in himself, he'll have a game like he did against Southampton. And even then, I think he could have done better, if I'm honest. But it was his best performance probably in the Spurs shirt, and hopefully we get more of those type of performances.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's run through that back line with you one more time. So in goal is going to be Hugo Lloris, right wing back Emerson Royale, left wing back Ryan Sessegnon, a back three of Davinson Sanchez, Eric Dyer and Ben Davies. So let's talk about the midfield now. And let's start off with Rodrigo Bentancur. I mean, it could be a potential of Bissouma to start this game, but again, I think Conte will go for his tried and tested method this weekend.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think Bentancur will be that midfield with Højbjerg, the partnership. I can't see him changing it. I think he trusts them both. He knows that they're the ones that got us to top four, and he knows what they're capable of. And I think he'll probably see how the game goes. I don't think Conte is afraid to change it. I think he will change it if if we're getting completely outrun in the midfield, he will change something. He'll either change the formation or the personnel.
But also the players need to know exactly specifically what they're doing in a Conte system.
Yes, there's that as well. Yeah.
Bissouma's obviously never played in a Conte system. That's why it's a bit different for Perisic, because he knows exactly what he's doing in that system.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, it's true.
Where as opposed to like Longley and Bissouma, they don't know just yet. And I think that it's going to take a bit of training and getting into their minds what they need to do before they start games. But coming on in games, I can definitely see it.
I think there's also an element of how he trusts them, because we've got to be honest, when Kulusevski came in, he was put straight into the team, and he'd never played under Conte before. Yeah,
but that Kulusevski and Bentancur coming in was more out of desperation than it was because now we're not desperate to change the system, because these players that are in there know their roles and know exactly what they're doing. Before we were relying on Harry Winks, and before we were relying on Lucas Moura, who weren't really doing it for us.
Yeah, I get that. I think that's probably why, because the players that in those positions who are being picked weren't performing. So he kind of like, well, if they go in and they're not going to do worse than that, are they? So you can't really play worse than a bad Lucas Moura and a bad Harry Winks. So yeah, I get that, but it's still you have to trust those players to come in, because the facts are they hadn't played in the Conte system before.
Yeah.
But because of their ability and how their belief in their own ability, they were able to do that straight away from the off.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with that. Let's move on and talk about his partner. I already touched on it in a little bit, so spoiler alert, but it was Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, who's been linked with Real Madrid today, which we'll get into in the Tottenham update a bit later. But in terms of Pierre, first of all, there was a bit of a mixed reception for his performance at Stamford Bridge. I thought he was one of the better players, but a lot of people saying he didn't play well at all. What was your opinion on?
Yeah, so I actually was one of the people who said from his first half performance, he wasn't, in my opinion, he wasn't that great. He was misplacing passes. He wasn't. His defensive work was okay. He wasn't. Our midfield was getting outrun, so both players were getting outbossed and outclassed in the midfield. It was like Bentancur seemed to be the slightly better one in that first half for me, and then the roles kind of reversed. So then Højbjerg became the better player, and then he finished the game off quite well, obviously scoring that goal. And then he made a couple of really good passes to put players through. I know the one he put through Richarlison on goal, it was an offside.
Harry Kane.
Yeah, there was a Harry Kane one as well. Yeah, that was a really good ball from Højbjerg. And obviously the Richarlison one, which was offside. But he put in a few really good balls in, and he kind of got better as the game went on. But Bentancur got worse as the second half went on. So that's why he came off. And yeah, I think there's no one else. I mean, I don't think Conte's going to trust Bissouma just yet to start that midfield in the midfield too of one of those players. So yeah, for me, it's definitely Højbjerg.
All right, so a middle two of Bentancur and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. And now the rest, I was about to say now the rest of the team gets a bit easier to pick, but apart from Sanchez, was fairly easy to pick in this one because it's all a bit of a same every week at the moment in terms of personnel. But we'll go through it one by one, and let's start off with Dejan Kulusevski. And I mean, what a performance he put in first game this season. Got kind of marked out the game a little bit at Stamford Bridge. What does he need to bring for you in this game?
I think just bring himself.
Yeah.
Just bring himself. Give me that ginger from Sweden. I think that's what he needs to do. Just. I think the Chelsea game was a little bit of an anomaly because when you saw what he was doing, he was always getting marked out by two players. They were always really shutting him down, and he just. I don't know. He just wasn't in the game. You just saw it from the off. He wasn't really in the game, and I think he just needs to show again. The performance he did against Southampton and other teams he's done last season.
Norwich back end, yeah,
exactly. I think just be direct. I think that's the main thing with him because he's a very direct player. He runs at people. He causes them problems.
And when he's on that form, he's kind of unplayable, isn't he?
Unplayable
because you can't get too close to him. You can't stand off him. I mean, what do you do with him when he's in that kind of mood?
That's the only thing you can do is kind of what Chelsea did. You double up on him. But then essentially what that should do, I know Chelsea are a lot better than, say, for example, a Wolves or a Southampton. But when you've got better players, you can kind of contain the team, which is what they did to us. They contained us a lot. They didn't let us play our football because they pressed us highly. I think if with someone like Wolves, they're going to have good players to do that. But I think we can hurt them more than, say, we could hurt Chelsea, for example. And I think if Kulu puts in that kind of performance, I think he's going to have a really good day tomorrow. I think he'll score tomorrow as well.
Yeah, me too. I'm also going for a ginger goal.
Yeah.
Loving it. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about the last two players, and I think you know exactly who they're going to be, so we'll read them out together.
Troy Parrott and Harry Winks.
And obviously up front is going to be Kane and Son. Son on the left-hand side, Harry Kane up top. Son hasn't had the best start to the season, has he?
He hasn't. Yeah, I was one of the people last week. I was screaming to get Son off like earlier than he came on
against Chelsea.
Against Chelsea, yeah, because obviously he came off for Perisic, didn't he? When he changed that formation, because Richarlison went up top with Kane, and I wanted Richarlison or Perisic. I kept saying Perisic is going to come on because of the formation, the tactic that he changed during the game. You can't not start Son. I mean, he's one of our best players. He's unbelievable, and yeah, he has been a little bit slow this to start this season. But here's always the next game, and maybe he can come alive against Wolves and maybe score a couple of goals. We could run riot against them, to be honest.
You know the quality of Son, like when he's had, not such a great game, just a good game is just around the corner.
Yeah.
And top moments from Sonny is about to come. So I'm backing him to score and have a great game this weekend. So
do you know what as well, Ben? With Son, he could have such a poor game and then he just produces one moment of brilliance where it's an assist or a goal, and he'll completely change the game, whether that's a win or bring us to a draw, whatever it is. But yeah, I don't think I would start Richarlison ahead of him yet. I think you just got to keep playing him. If it goes like to, I don't know, say 2, 3, 4 games where I'd say give it another 3 games. And if Son is still in this he's not in this good form, he hasn't really assisted, then maybe you maybe look to change him for Richarlison and give Richarlison a chance.
All right, interesting. And then obviously Harry Kane, again, he hasn't had the strongest start to the season either. Got on the score sheet at the last minute of the Chelsea game, which was great. But what do you want to see Kane do more that he hasn't done so far this season?
It's a good question. I think with Harry Kane, I think he just needs to get more. What I've seen, I'll tell you what I've noticed from him this season so far is his hold-up play. It's been quite poor. Against Southampton, against Chelsea in the first half, his hold-up play was awful. I mean, he kept losing the ball. His touch wasn't great. He did grow into the game, but again, his finishing as well. When he was 1-on-1, did you see?
Yeah, when do you see Kane miss?
Did you see Conte's reaction?
No.
So basically, what happened was when Kane was through on goal, he already started smiling. So he was like, "Oh, I know this is going in." And then his reaction, the funniest thing, he completely was like. He was like, oh my fucking god! I couldn't believe it. It was funny because he was like, "Yeah, this is going in." Like he just knew it, but he completely hit the target.
When Kane's 1-on-1 like that, it's very rare he misses. You know what I mean?
Very rare. That's why Conte already started smiling. He thought it was going in before he even hit the ball.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he just needs to bring back that sharpness he had in pre-season, because in pre-season he looked like a man possessed. And I want to see a bit more of that kind of Harry Kane tomorrow. I would like to see him really get involved, dictate the game. He did dictate it a little bit against Chelsea, but I want to see that more from him. I want to see him really dictate the game, give Son a couple of those really good balls, and hopefully we have a couple of Son goals tomorrow.
All right, so let's run through the lineup with you one more time, guys. So it's Hugo Lloris in goal, right wing back Emerson Royale, left wing back Ryan Sessegnon. In the centre backs, we've got Sanchez, Dyer, and Davis. Højbjerg and Bentancur in the double pivot, with Kulusevski, Son supporting Harry Kane up top. If this is the lineup, Danny, what score prediction are you going for?
I'm going 3-1. 3-1 Spurs. Kulu to get 1 goal, maybe an assist as well. Son to get. Should we go? Let's go 2 goals for Son. Fuck it, why not?
All right, lovely.
2 goals for Son. Yeah,
I'm going 2-0 Spurs, and I'm going for goals from Sonny and Kulusevski, both assisted by Harry Kane. So I think it's always a tough game when Wolves come here, but I do think it's a bit different this year, seeing as they are transitioning into 4 at the back, and they are on fairly bad form when you take into account the back end of last season and the start of this season winless still. So there is a point to say that, after being on such bad form, they are going to be looking and trying very hard to make that right. But I think if we do get an early goal this weekend, that'll put that to bed, and they'll have to come out and I think we can really hurt them and really punish them. So I'm going 2-0. Danny is going 3-1. Let me know your score predictions in the comment section below. Let me know your predicted lineup in the comment section below as well. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.